Silent. You keep like getting me.
Sorry.
Like I feel so stupid.
You're not stupid. All right. Taya Obreht.
Hi.
Hi. You were great.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling very good right now. I was feeling nervous before, but
how did
better.
the advice go?
The advice went really well.
Yeah,
Actually, I implemented it. And I went up there and I must. Yeah.
I gave her some advice that is secret. And you may tell one person the advice when and if they need it.
All right,
and then
I like
they
this.
keep it top secret, and then they pass it along.
I like this.
Yeah, that way, if you told everyone would be like us, and who would we be? Nobody.
That's true. Absolutely nobody. Yeah. But I'm grateful for the advice. It made me rally.
Good. I'm really glad. So now, all this amazing stuff has happened for you and your book is not out yet.
Yes.
That's special.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I feel very lucky that it's happening, and that it's it's really fantastic. Sort of, it's giving the book this amazing cradle in which to fall when it finally comes out in March, and I'm so excited for that, and very honored for all these amazing honors. I'm honored for these honors. I'm honored for these privileges, and it's just been fantastic.
Well, they're very, very well deserved.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Let's see. I don't want to talk about your age because that just seems so crass. Because I mean, like, does everyone know that you're 67?
Yeah. Actually, they but they don't like to bring it up. But I'm really glad that you have. I think it's important to be honest. Yeah.
So do you have AARP, or do you get sort of senior discounts on things?
Luckily I do.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Otherwise I'd be in real trouble because I'm self-employed. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. And so a lot of Botox.
Yeah, tons,
Good.
all the time. Can't recommend it enough.
So you used your advance pretty much for
Botox.
Yeah,
but
Botox.
luckily I didn't have to for health insurance. So because of the.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
God, congratulations. Now, are you working? You have to be working on your next book already.
I am.
And how far are you?
Not very far on paper, but pretty far conceptually, I think, which makes me happy and yet sort of disappointed that the paper hasn't caught up to the brain.
No, it's good. It's good. You're almost done. It's like as soon as you get to the end in your brain, it's like
oh, done. Yeah.
Just hand it to someone else and be like, I'll just talk to you, tell you what it's about, and you write it. But that's great. That's really exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now, when I'm going to ask one more thing. When you wrote this, before you wrote this, did you conceptualize the whole thing first in your head as well?
A lot of it. It was two separate stories at first, and it turned out as I was writing it that they were really two stories that were meant to be together, and were meant to play off of each other. And at the same time, I have to have an outline before I can start writing. I have to sort of have a goal in mind that I'm aiming toward. But the truth is, and this has happened more and more to me, that goal is very sort of loosey-goosey, and it turns out that it doesn't really generally, the writing doesn't generally end up at the goal, which is surprising and wonderful, but I was stunned to find that out about myself. I was like, I write to the goal, but no.
Yeah, but that's great. I mean, at least you have some sort of framework, It's like you're like building a tent, and like maybe you'll sleep in it, maybe you won't.
Yeah, true,
but
right,
at least
exactly.
the tent is there.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. Well, congratulations. I'm really excited for you, and I will see you in April or May?
March. No, April.
Happy ending?
April, yes.
All right, so I'll see you in April. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now go party. Have fun.
Thank you.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for those readings. Quite honestly, there's any number of young writers who I'd love to have come up here this evening. I've spent a few years in various writing programs, and I think I would probably want every single one of them to be up and to read to you in some form tonight. And so when it came to the opportunity, which it is, to make a decision about somebody, I thought, well, I have to find somebody who I don't know and who I've never heard of before. And this was in the middle of last summer, and a book rolled across my desk, and it was Taya Obreht's book came and it was an extraordinary revelation. And I did want all of those other students that I worked with to be here, and in a curious way, I suppose they are. When you think about this, this sort of meeting and this sort of desire, and then you see these people coming together. This is the future of literature, but the future of literature operates on so many different fronts, which is great. Thea was born in 19... Let's try it again. She was born in 1985. Start being born in the 2000s, you know. Yeah, she was born in 1985 in Belgrade, in Serbia, the former Yugoslavia. And she spent some of her childhood in Cyprus and some in Egypt, but she moved at a very young age. She's part of that international set, and her family, who are here with her tonight, they came to the United States in 1997. It made her 12. And then she ended up going to the University of Southern California and got her MFA in fiction in the creative writing program at Cornell. Her first novel, The Tiger's Wife, which is the one that rolled across my desk last summer, will be published by the Random House in April of next year. You've probably seen her work. It's in The New Yorker, it's in The Atlantic, it's in Harper's Magazine right now too. It is also part of the 2010 Best Non-Required American Reading that Dave Eggers puts together. It's everywhere, and it should be. This is one of the most extraordinary voices that I have had the privilege to come across in a long, long time. The Tiger's Wife is, as Anne Patchett says, and Anne Patchett should know, if anybody knows, Anne Patchett knows, a marvel of beauty and imagination. Like all stories, it is many, many stories. It's a story of longing, a story of family, a story of war, a story of belonging, a story of allowing myth and beauty in the face of all other available evidence. It's a risky book, it's breathtaking, it's full of intelligence and humour, and some of the best writing that I've come upon in quite a while. And here's a voice that immediately reminded me of Alexander Heyman, also reminded me of Murakami, also reminded me of Victor Pelevin, and has inspired other people to talk about Bulgakov and also to talk about Gabriel Garcia Marquez. That's quite a load on your shoulders. But she's a writer who does move fluidly between the real and the unreal, and uses her imagination to confront that Yeatsian foul rag and bone shop of the heart. When you grow up, as she did and her family did, on the outskirts of a war, I grew up also on the outskirts of a war, your sense of the world is sort of radically shifted, and sometimes language is all that you have. Language is what you fall back on, and this young writer falls back and lands very capably in the arms of language. Turgenev says you should treat this mighty weapon of language with respect, because in the most remarkable hands it can create miracles. So don't trust the doomsayers when they say that the novel is finished. I mean, are they kidding? This is going to go on for years and years and years. It's always going to be the end of the novel, the end of the book, the end of the story. It's not going to happen. But have these younger writers coming along, and it's a joy to see it all unfolding. I want to say that our greatest work is often forged from the most perilous times. You'll see it maybe from some of the reading from Tiger's Wife. If not from the reading, then get a sense of this book early next year. But the best writing is also occasionally discomforting, and it's there to prod and to provoke us, poke us in the eye, kick us in the ass, knock us on our feet, take our breath away, and most important of all, to break our hearts. The written word and the thrown image, these are the only means that we have to refute the darkness of despair. And sometimes the bravest art lies in the fearless realm of the extreme. This is what Taylor's book does. watch her, listen to her. We'll be talking about her for many, many years. But these are my words, not hers. Here she is.
Thank you so much, Colin, for that amazing introduction. I'm going to try to follow it up here. And thank you all so much for having me. It's such an incredible honor and privilege to be here. Thank you to Colin and to the National Book Foundation and to everyone here for being here, and my family who's here. And I'm a little nervous to read in front of them for the first time, but that's okay. So I'm going to read this is the introduction of one of the three storylines in the book, and it's called The Tiger. Having sifted through everything I now know about the tiger's wife, I can tell you that this much is a fact. In 1941, in late spring, without declaration or warning, German bombs started falling on the city and did not stop for 3 days. The tiger did not know that they were bombs. He did not know anything beyond the hiss and screech of the fighters passing overhead, missiles falling, the sound of bears bellowing in another part of the fortress, the sudden silence of birds. There was smoke and terrible warmth, a gray sun rising and falling in what seemed like a matter of minutes, and the tiger, frenzied, dry-tongued, ran back and forth across the span of the rusted bars, lowing like an ox. He was alone and hungry, and that hunger, coupled with the thunderous noise of bombardment, had burned in him a kind of awareness of his own death, an imminent and innate knowledge that he could neither dismiss nor succumb to. He did not know what to do with it. His water had dried up, and he rolled and rolled in the stone bed of his trough and the uneaten bones lying in a corner of the cage, making that long, sad sound that tigers make. After 2 days of pacing, his legs gave out, and he was reduced into a contraction of limbs lying in his own waste. He had lost the ability to move, to produce sound, to react in any way. When a stray bomb hit the south wall of the citadel, sending up a choking cloud of smoke and ash and shattering bits of rubble into the skin of his head and flank, bits that would grow, that would gnaw at his flesh for weeks until he got used to the grainy ache of them when he rolled onto his side, his heart should have stopped. The iridescent air and the feeling of his fur folding back like paper in the heat. And then the long hours during which he crouched at the back of his pen, watching the ruptured flank of the citadel wall. All of these things should have killed him. But something, some flickering of the blood, forced him to his feet and through the gap in the wall. He was not the only one. Years later, they would write about wolves running down the street, a polar bear standing in the river. They would write about how flights of parrots were seen for weeks above the city, how a prominent engineer and his family lived an entire month off a zebra carcass. The tiger's route through the city that night took him north to the waterfront behind the citadel, where the remains of the merchant's port and Jewish quarters spread in a flattened pile of brick down the bank and into the waters of the Danube. The river was lit by fires, and those who had gone into it were washing back against the bank where the tiger stood. He considered the possibility of swimming across, and under optimal circumstances he might have attempted it, but the smell rising off the bodies turned the tiger around and sent him back past the Citadel Hill and into the ruined city. People must have seen him, but in the wake of bombardment, he was anything but a tiger to them, a joke, an insanity, a religious hallucination. He drifted, enormous and silent, down the alleys of Old Town, past the smashed-in doors of coffee houses and bakeries, past motor cars flung through shop windows. He went down the tramway, up and over fallen trolleys in his path, beneath lines of electric cable that ran through the city and now hung broken and black as jungle creeper. By the time he reached Knez Petrova, looters were already swarming the boulevard. Men were walking by him, past him, alongside. Men with fur coats and bags of flour, with sacks of sugar and ceiling fixtures, with faucets, tables, chair legs, upholstery ripped from the walls of ancient Turkish houses that had fallen in the raid. He ignored them all. Some hours before sunrise, the tiger found himself in the abandoned market at Kalinia, 2 blocks up from where my grandfather and my grandma would buy their first apartment 15 years later. Here, the scent of death that clung to the wind drifting in from the north separated from the pools of rich stench that ran between the cobbles of the market square. He walked with his head down, savoring the spectrum of unrecognizable aromas, splattered tomatoes and spinach that stuck to the grooves in the road, broken eggs, bits of fish, the clotted fat leavings on the sides of the butcher's stands, the thick smell smeared around the cheese counter. His thirst insane, the tiger lapped up pools from the leaky fountain where the flower women filled their buckets, and then put his nose into the face of a sleeping child who had been left wrapped in blankets under the pancake stand. Finally, up through the sleepless neighborhoods of the lower city with the sound of the second river in his ears, the tiger began to climb the trail into the King's Forest. I like to think that he went along our old carriage trail. I like to imagine his big cat paw prints in the gravel, his exhausted, square-shouldered walk along my childhood paths, years before I was even born. But in reality, the way through the undergrowth was faster, the moss easier on paws that he had shredded on city rubble. The cooling feel of the trees bending down to him as he pushed up the hill until at last he reached the top, the burning city far behind him. The tiger spent the rest of the night in the graveyard and left the city at dawn. He did not go by unobserved. He was seen first by the gravedigger, a man who was almost blind and who did not trust his eyes to tell him that a tiger standing on its hind legs was rummaging in the dumpster and mouthing flowers and thistles in the early morning sunlight. He was seen next by a small girl riding in the back of her family's wagon who noticed him between the trees and thought he was a dream. He was noticed, too, by the city's tank commander who would go on to shoot himself 3 days later and who mentioned the tiger in his last letter to his betrothed. "I have never seen so strange a thing as a tiger in a wheat field," he wrote, "even though today I pulled a woman's breast and stomach out of the pond at the convent of Santa Maria."